literally threatened, who said,
Oh,
you know,
wait,
you do
what? What a wild thing for a left-leaning person to say. Who the f does this uppity, stupid bitch think she is? Get her into a call.
Yeah, I mean, I think what she said about Kyle Rittenhouse is pretty stupid. We can talk about the lies of Jacob Blake's reporting, but I don't think that that matters.
The reason why people are protesting aren't because black people are being shot by cops. They feel like it's because black people are being shot by cops for no reason.
I think a cop shooting anybody is pretty much without justification.
Do you think the cops were okay to shoot Jacob Blake?
No.
So when Jacob Blake, a convicted sex offender, was about to drive off with 2 or 3 children with a weapon in the car, you don't think the cops were in the right to try to stop him with lethal force? You think they should have let him drive off?
They don't have a car, they can't chase him.
Yeah, you think it would have been better to do a high-speed chase with 3 children in the back seat with Jacob Blake?
Does it have to be a high-speed chase?
Okay, so we're very excited to have this conversation. We started talking a little bit before the show.
Oh wait, is it Helltide?
You seem open to talking about a lot of things. You seem to be going through kind of a political transformation, evolution. I don't really know the right word to call it, but I'll let you talk about that. But first of all, people want to know, because you did mention in our little chat in DMs that I was wrong about the Daily Wire thing. Now, I make predictions on the show all the time, and I have never been wrong before. So people, I've been making jokes about you might end up at the Daily Wire. That's not true?
No. It's funny because, you know, I'm going through something very real and very sincere, and it's uncomfortable, and it has not been an enjoyable process for me. It's been difficult. And so the internet being what it is, all sorts of people from all sorts of political ideologies have...
Why is it when I get on my horse on cooldown? That's so stupid.
Happening with me, right? And the main accusation, both from the left and the right, is that I'm grifting, which is hilarious because literally nothing has changed about my work life. I'm in the same place. I have the same audience. The audience doesn't like some of what I have to say or some of the new conclusions I've come to. And so I wanted to kind of set the record straight about what I have personally experienced. I don't know what my political labels are at this point, right? Because I feel like I don't really fit
it's
anywhere.
happening.
And it's...
Who called it?
Just full honesty.
Destiny said bread tube was dying and it died.
And
Destiny said the progressives will slowly fall off. They're falling off.
Adult life, this is probably the point where I'm the most malleable and open to new information because of what I've experienced over the last few years. And I can get into details about that in just a moment. But that was the reason why I told Adam that, no, this isn't like a Daily Wire thing. I have no interest in working at the Daily Wire. I have no interest in leaving TYT. If anything, I just feel a responsibility to kind of correct what I got wrong in the past to the best of my ability and just do better moving forward. And the reason why I've been at TYT as long as I have is, despite what any of you might think about Cenk, he has never once tried to censor me or tell me what I can and can't say. That's the reason why, you know, we get into these fiery debates and there's never any like retaliation for it. And as long as I'm free to speak my mind and genuinely speak my mind the way I have been, I plan on staying there. And there's absolutely no monetary or financial incentive for me to do anything I'm doing right now.
Well, Sitch and I box a lot on this show. And I think people... You know, I think they like that. I think they admire that we are able to fight with one another over a policy position and still walk away friends. So,
I'm reading warning, I'm about to read way too much into this, and I don't think it means anything about what she's saying, but it is a little bit interesting that she just gave a qualifier there that somebody could say, do you think you're ever going to leave the Young Turks? You'd think the answer would be, no, I'm never leaving. But the qualifier of like, as long as I'm able to say what I truly want to say, I have no plans of leaving. That's really interesting to phrase it that way. Like, if I was being conspiratorial, I'd be like, she's giving herself a way out in the future. Like, I feel like I can't really say what I want on this network, so blah, blah, blah. Or I feel like it's hard with the I'm reading a lot into that. I doubt that's what she's saying. She's probably just speaking like off the cuff. I don't think she means that, but it is an interesting way to phrase it.
So I spent the last week, I was watching a bunch of your most recent videos. And I mean, you're snapping back at Cenk quite often. I mean, it's actually quite refreshing. There's a couple things, and we have questions on these, But I'll let Sitch. I don't know. Do you have anything that you want to ask before we get started?
So yeah, it turns out that Ana is a massive fan of our program. She's seen every episode, just huge fan, right?
Well, okay, so I happened to come across a video you guys did about me. It was the stream on, I hate to name names, but you guys were covering the leftist mafia and their insane gaslighting video about me. And you guys were the only ones, as far as I could see, that actually did a good job in highlighting how badly they were gaslighting me. Right. And so I thank you for doing that.
Oh, come on. I simp for Ana all the time. I did all the homeless shit.
Everyone around
How did she not notice?
Everyone who alleges to be your friend tells you something you know isn't true, but they keep repeating it to you over and over again. You start asking yourself, like,
actually, no, wait, that's not true. She still says some shit that I completely disagree with.
So that's
absolutely not true.
That. But, you know, you guys have put out a ton of videos about me that have not been friendly or nice, and it's okay. I mean, I can
wait, where's Brianna Wu? Give me a talk with.
You guys raised
give me a talk with Ana.
Valid points, and I just need to be willing to accept where I was wrong and where people are critiquing from good faith. Like, you guys have a little bit of an edgy style, so I'll acknowledge that. But I have thick skin, so it didn't really bother me that much.
That's commendable. You know, we're on this kind of like internet environment where everyone's very attacky to each other.
Totally.
Especially when they're not like engaging with them in person. So
yeah,
you have to have kind of a thick skin. And I know, but I mean, you're talking about earlier, and one of the things that we always commended you on was, you know, when you publicly came out and you said that you were wrong about the Rittenhouse video,
thing?
Which I mean, most people when they make a mistake, they just try to hide it or they try to shift blame. You know, Jimmy Dore very, famously shifted blame to his producer. And I thought it was really commendable that you came out and you're like, no, I got this wrong. And you were trying to show, not just do this like for your sake, but to say like, listen, audience, you need to understand that this is the story. And I don't want you guys to have the wrong information.
Yeah, there was, look, the one, I guess, through line you'll notice in the various things that we're going to talk about in this conversation is that it just became abundantly clear to me that where I was getting my information, and I'm not just talking about like, independent lefty outlets. I'm talking about like legacy media outlets, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of them, it's not that they report misinformation, it's that they omit details of the story that would, maybe the additional details of the story don't change your mind at all, right? But it's not up to them to decide that. Yeah. Like, we should know every detail. I think the Amy Cooper story is another example. It was fairly recently I came across.
Oh my God, friend, we're going to do this event, friend.
Very in-depth investigation into that story. And there were so many details of that story that were intentionally omitted or left out.
Oh, we're not doing this.
Legacy media reporting of it. And that painted a picture in my mind and in the minds of many others that, there's no justification for the way that she was, panicking when she was on the phone with the 911 dispatcher, right? But then you get this, then you find out, based on what Camille Foster had found out and reported, was that like she didn't have good cell reception. So the person on the other end of that conversation couldn't hear her. She was panicking because she genuinely thought that she was at risk after, here's another thing that was omitted in a lot of the reports, after she was literally threatened by the birdwatcher, right? Who said,
wait, what?
I'm going to
and I got based on the birdwatcher story?
And then he proceeds to try to lure her dog to him. And listen, you might still...
Okay, hold on. Wait, am I way too up on my high horse? I feel like these are stories that I've covered. There must be some like chain here or something, no?
Kind of over-exaggerating the situation that's actually happening.
I was just thinking of this one.
Oh, you're gonna show the dog! You're gonna show the dog! You're gonna show the dog video that everybody got mad at because they didn't get the full story on this one either? By the way, if you saw this video and you thought it was just a crazy white woman being a crazy white woman, she was being about 40% crazy. But what you didn't see in this video was when the black guy posted the video on Facebook, he even wrote in the comments, I told this white woman I was gonna offer her dog treats to abduct her dog. Like, yeah, no, she was nervous in the video, but none of that got reported on, even though the black guy put that part in his original Facebook post.
Woman, yes.
Exactly. Like sort of implying like, I'm in danger, everyone. Do what you do when a white woman is in danger.
It's actually so cocked. Do you have the Facebook post with the dog abduction statement? Oh, here we go. Central Park this morning. This woman's dog is tearing through the plantings in the ramble. Me, ma'am, dogs in the ramble have to be on a leash at all times. The sign is right there. Her. The dog runs are closed. He needs his exercise. Me. All you have to do is take him to the other side of the drive outside the ramble and you can let him run off leash all you want. Her. It's too dangerous. Me. Look, if you're going to do what you want, I'm going to do what I want, but you're not going to like it. Her. What's that? Me to the dog. Come here, puppy. Her. He won't come to you. Me. We'll see about that. I pull out the dog treats I carry just for such an intransigence. I didn't even get a chance to toss any treats to the pooch before Karen scrambled to grab the dog. Her. Don't you touch my dog. Nobody included this context, by the way, when this video went viral. Because once you get this context, the woman's reaction is way more reasonable.
You might still feel that her behavior was uncalled for, whatever. That's up to you. But you should know all those details. And I will say, from my personal opinion, if I'm alone at a park and some random guy tries to lure my dog away from me, I'm gonna freak out. You know, like I just am. And so, okay, with the Rittenhouse story, I was gonna cover the trial and I just needed to go back and just like really, really look at all of the details and remember all the details. So when I do the story, I get the facts right. And then as I'm doing that, I come across a New York Times video. And this was a really, really well done video that they posted on YouTube that showed you in slow motion, like how everything transpired that night. Mm-hmm. And once you see it for yourself, it's really, really difficult to argue that in those moments, he was not acting in self-defense.
You do see it in the video, someone taking a skateboard and hitting Rittenhouse over the head with it as he's on his back. And I haven't seen this video yet, but it was already, the New York Times says it's on tape. There's someone captured on video, someone who has not been identified, kicking Rittenhouse in the face. So look, these details matter because if you're going to make an argument that you acted in self-defense, there needs to be some proof that there was an imminent threat. Right. And in this case, the imminent threat is the guy using the skateboard and someone kicking Rittenhouse in the face as he's on his back. Now, what really mattered to me was how all of this unfolded. What was the thing that sparked it? What started all of it? And initially, I was under the assumption that Rittenhouse was the person who was chasing after Joseph Rosenbaum, that's how it had started. But I was wrong about that.
And this is an area where, Cenk and I disagree because,
That's why my take on the Rittenhouse stuff was as strong as it was, as quick as it was, because like the very first thing I saw of all the Rittenhouse stuff, the very first thing I saw was the video. I didn't read any reporting, I didn't hear any summaries, I didn't do any research. The first thing I saw was the video. And I think I was playing that sponsor game by that company that got mad at me. But the literal, I think I saw it, and then I saw it, I opened it, and then I closed it like in 5 seconds. And I was like, yeah, this is whatever I'm watching. This is obviously self-defense. It was like, I thought it was like the least controversial thing I'd ever said in my entire life. It was so obviously self-defense. And then I closed it, and then.
If someone's hitting you over the head with a skateboard, that could kill you. And so, Cenk is he's a strong-minded person, and he's not one to back down from a fight. So in his mind, someone confronts you with a skateboard, he doesn't see it as a threat, but I do. And Rittenhouse is
17-year-old
not a big,
boy,
burly guy who can defend himself against someone who's like hitting him over the head with a skateboard as he's lying on his back. So once I saw all those details, first of all, I had to convey them to my audience and be honest.
She gets a lot of her stuff from blocked and reported at Advocacy Signal.
The other thing was, there was
what's going on with this? Is it done?
About how Kyle Rittenhouse was in possession of an illegal weapon and that he crossed state lines with that illegal weapon. Okay? Yep. So that was a lie. And it's not a lie that I just made up in my mind, right? That was how it was reported initially, which is why I would mention the state lines, but not because, how dare he cross state lines. Anyone in this country has the right to cross state lines. It was because it was reported that he was in possession of an illegal gun, and he traveled across state lines with an illegal gun, which is a serious charge. But it turned out that he did not travel across state lines with that weapon.
Yeah, he didn't do that. Yeah, the weapon was in.
Oh, because he picked it up
the area already.
Yeah.
Exactly. He bought it from a friend when he was already in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Sitch, the night of that event, I mean, maybe a day afterwards, Sitch and I were watching those videos online as they were breaking out. And I saw the reporting was basically wrong on CNN the night the viral videos were released. Don Lemon was saying, a white kid shoots into a crowd
Yep.
of Black Lives Matter protesters.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Yep.
That's what Vosh said
insane.
too, remember?
So
He was literally laying on his ass, firing shots at people 20 feet away who weren't even moving towards him.
Hold on. Can somebody please link the video so that we can watch it? Have you watched that video?
I've watched, I think, that video, yeah.
Can somebody link the second video so that we can watch it together? Because I have no idea what the you are talking about. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I'm trying so hard because you're being so dishonest, okay?
Just spraying into a crowd or whatever.
And everyone just kind of gets caught up in it.
Yeah, and that's how misinformation spreads. And that was a pivotal moment for me because, again, misinforming the audience is not something I have any interest in. And I might give them the facts and they might not like it, but I can't withhold information from them because I'm afraid that they might not like it. So I'm going to give them the facts. But, I've learned to be better about, first of all, the sources I trust. I make an effort to just be cognizant of the filter bubbles we all exist in, the filter bubbles I exist in. And I've broken through that bubble a little bit to, look at other sources that I typically wouldn't have looked at. And then the other thing that I do now is I just wait. I think the story involving the so-called citibike Karen is a good example of that.
Yeah.
The main show,
my God.
TYT consists of many different shows, right? The show that I'm the executive producer and host of is the main flagship show, The Young Turks. Mm-hmm. And prior to that story breaking, I had a meeting with my team and I was like, listen, I don't want you guys pitching stories about random individuals in the country who are caught in an out of context video allegedly behaving badly. I think these stories are divisive. I don't think we usually have the full details before we talk about these stories. And honestly, at the end of the day, engaging in these witch hunts is actually
detrimental,
causing more division and hate in the country than anything else. So if there's a story that's particularly jarring and you guys really do want to cover it,
do I want to join a party? I don't think so, right? Is there any point in joining a party?
We are not in the business of breaking news. I don't give a shit about being the first in reporting the story or whatever.
No, because then my account's not solo anymore. I shouldn't, never mind.
We actually report it correctly and we don't have egg on our face later. Now, there are a bunch of other shows on the network that I have no say over, that I have no control over, who, inaccurately reported on it and had to issue retractions. They had to take videos down and all that stuff.
When I'm presented with evidence that shows, well, at least contrary to the overall conclusion that somehow she knew she did not have access to that bike. Well, that's not true if the receipts are real. She believed she had access to the bike. So for that matter, to the woman who was in the middle of this, I submit to you my apologies as a man.
And I just think that was a teachable moment, hopefully a teachable moment for everyone in the company. But certainly, this is an ongoing conversation I have with my team. And luckily, I don't know how I did it. I feel like I found unicorn producers because they're really smart, super open-minded. They're less interested in this left versus right or partisan garbage. And they're more interested in making sure that if we're going to report stories, we get it accurate. And so we're moving slowly but surely in a direction that I think is better, not just for the show, but I think better in terms of what we add to society. Mm-hmm. The last thing I want to do is be the other side of right-wing disinformation, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to be critical of disinformation we see happening in various videos and that are produced by other people, we should at least look inward a little bit and make sure that we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah, it's interesting you were saying how with the media, a lot of the misinformation comes from they leave stuff out. And that's been my experience too, just this intentional leaving out of key information, or they'll the headline or the subsection will kind of frame something in a very specific way. So even when you get to like kind of the contradictory information, your mind is already like made up by that point, so it doesn't matter. And so it leads to this kind of effect where like once a person once that story hits that, like you or me or anyone, because I kind of went through the same experience, where like once something hits me in a specific way, like it's like I'm free of the matrix. Suddenly I'm starting to see like things a little bit differently. All the dominoes kind of start to fall, and I say, oh wait, I start to see like where all the misinformation is coming from. Was the Rittenhouse thing like, was that like the key moment, or was there something else that kind of like made you shift your thinking?
So that was one of the pivotal moments, but honestly,
the pivotal moment was this Destiny stream I watched.
Everything for me started when I started getting gaslit on the crime wave. And it's really interesting to talk about these various political issues in the abstract. But then once you personally experience something, and once you see something happening in the country with your own two eyes, and your political side is incessantly gaslighting you on it, it makes you question, well,
can you trust anything they say?
Or what else are you guys gaslighting about? And that's what happened. So, you know, during the pandemic, there was absolutely a crime wave in the country, mostly in like major cities. Los Angeles happened to be one of them. And, you know, I talked about how I, you know, was assaulted. Well, actually, let me give you the details again, because there's an element to that story that I've never shared with anyone that also explains where my head's at now. So, you know, as I was walking my dog one day, there were these two guys. They appeared to be homeless. They appeared to be on something. They looked like they might be methed out or something, because they were kind of acting erratically. But, you know, typically when I come across guys like that, if I ignore them,
they usually fuck off.
They won't do anything. Right. That wasn't the case this time around. You know, they're coming toward me, and my dog, Charlie, like, he does his business. And as I bend over to pick up his business, one of them grabs me by my hips and just, like, with an erection and everything, just starts, like, humping me. Like, right there in, like, broad daylight. And it was terrifying because, like, I didn't have any weapon with me, no taser, no pepper spray, nothing. And luckily the guy, he did that, and then he and his friend walk away while they're, like, laughing at me. And I felt so degraded, scared. And, like, the first thing I did is I called my husband, and he came down, and he's like, where are they? And he started looking for them. We couldn't find them. The cops wouldn't come. Like, we actually had an incident in front of our building, like, a few weeks prior to that. That was really scary. We called the police, and
homeless people
wouldn't come.
Sometimes they just don't give a fuck. Yeah.
And now, in retrospect, I realized the reason why is because there was a shortage.
And that's it, probably.
I think that there was, like, an unofficial strike, considering what happened in 2020 and all the protests. So they just wouldn't show up. And I just didn't even think to call the cops, because I'm like, what's the point? These guys have already, like, left, and they're not going to be able to find them. But anyway, I opened up about that. And I also started opening up about, you know, just what the statistics were indicating in regard to crime and how it's obviously having a negative impact on all communities, but mostly the communities that, like, BLM,
minority ones,
leftists claim to care so much about. The disadvantaged communities. You know, crime on the metro system in LA has been unbelievable. And the majority of people who take the metro, who take buses and public transportation,
are poor.
They're usually, like,
working class
immigrant workers. They're usually, you know, blue collar workers who, you know, don't have enough money to buy a car, for instance. And so I was like, why are you guys cool with just having these people deal with this kind of violence? There was, like, a phase last year where people were literally being set on fire randomly on buses. And that would get no attention, no news coverage, and it would infuriate me. And so when I opened up about what happened to me in my own neighborhood, what I thought was telling was how not everyone, but some people accuse me of pushing racist stereotypes. But I had never, ever disclosed the race of these two individuals, ever.
Yeah.
But they just assumed that these two guys were black. They weren't black. They were two white guys. But, like, I never shared that publicly because I didn't think the race really mattered, right? What actually happened mattered. And I thought the reaction to it by the people who were supposed to allegedly want dignity for everyone reacted to it. Like, that really bothered me. So that was the beginning of it. I would say that's what started me questioning everything and wanting to, like, look deeper into everything. And then other things happened. So,
jeez, this is almost like a why I left the left moment for Anna. My God.
What was happening to Asian Americans. So there would be all these videos of Asian Americans getting sucker punched or hit over the head with, you know, whatever.
The Young Turks' Ana Kasparian took heat online after posting a video of a man assaulting a woman, saying, quote, "This is a man who was arrested 41 times. After this incident, he was released and went on to send a subway worker to the hospital with a broken collarbone. But according to this crime reporter, that man committing assault breaking bones is the real victim." Here's the video. It's pretty graphic.
And the main narrative on the left was, this is anti-Asian hate. Yeah. But actually, if you look at all of those stories individually, it usually involved like a repeat criminal or someone who's just been left on the streets with severe mental health issues. Like people basically carrying out these acts of violence because they don't have their head in the right place, they need help, whatever it is. But like to just brush it off as, oh, it's just anti-Asian hate that's been inspired by the right wing, it just wasn't true. Yeah. And, you know, I just thought it was wrong to frame it that way, when in reality, there was a real issue with, you know, repeat offenders, and in some cases, people with severe mental health issues, honestly, randomly targeting all sorts of people. But, you know, since a lot of this was happening in areas like San Francisco, where there's a sizable Asian population, the narrative on the left became, oh, it's just anti-Asian hate that's been inspired by the right. And I just didn't really see much evidence of that. Then there was the attacks on straight news journalists who were doing their jobs. For instance, when Li Fong was reporting on the BLM protests, when he was accurately reporting on the BLM protests and some of the violence that took place during those protests, his own colleagues at The Intercept tried to paint him as a racist. I've known Li Fong for many, many years, since I started working at TYT. The guy doesn't have a racist bone in his body. For them to paint him in that way, I thought was disgusting, and it had a chilling effect, right? The whole point is to intimidate journalists from doing accurate reporting on what's actually occurring on the ground. Then there was what happened to Jesse Singal, which I found disgusting. I didn't know about that until at some point this year, I would say earlier this year.
With the trans stuff? Jesse's been on the show before. Yeah, he's done great.
Jesse Singal is a good faith, I think, critical thinker. I
will say for Jesse, he's a little obsessed with the trans stuff. I will say that.
Podcast episodes from Blocked and Reported.
But I think he generally tries.
Anything from Jesse Singal that communicates to me that he is a transphobe, that he is a bad person. He did straight news reporting on basically what, you know, some of the risks could be when it comes to transitioning literal kids with puberty blockers and then cross-sex hormones. And through his reporting, which I'm very sad to say I didn't really come across until this year, I learned that I was wrong about a bunch of other things, right? So for instance, it is a lie that puberty blockers are reversible. In some cases, they are not, and they can cause irreparable harm. And look, you might think, okay, but you got to do a balancing act. And if a child or if a teenager has severe gender dysphoria, and it would actually be better for that person to go on puberty blockers. Okay, I mean, we should be able to balance that out. But my point
you can't lie about the side effects, potential side effects.
Withholding the information because you don't like the information getting out there ain't the way to go, because that
I think puberty blockers are generally reversible. Maybe not in all instances, but I'm pretty sure generally they are, with a few long-term effects.
What we should do moving forward.
I can go
what
look
are
that
the
up
pros
later.
and cons? So there's that. You know, all of this stuff it started adding up. And through listening to Blocked and Reported, I found out I got a lot of stories wrong as well. Rebecca Jones ended up being a liar and a grifter. And I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known that had I not, you know, opened my mind up to other voices.
Rebecca Jones was the one that went after DeSantis, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And she's a complete liar. And
Who is this?
uplifted her, we enabled her, and I feel disgusting that we did that. So I issued a retraction and a correction on that story. I don't know what the reaction was.
My reaction was good.
Oh, Doomblade. Yeah. This is a good sword for me.
What is some of the reaction? Like one of the problems that we often have, you know, obviously we're labeled right-wingers all the time.
COVID whistleblower.
Anyone who watches our show.
Which direction was she whistleblowing for?
Liberals. Like to call us right wing is just, I mean, it's kind of laughable. But we are constantly called right wingers just because we don't straw man the arguments that are made on the right. And so many people on the left, all they are familiar with is the straw man version of the trans issue or some particular news story. So what is some of the reaction that you have gotten to that?
Well, I mean, the reaction has not been great. I mean, look, that leftist mafia stream was unbelievable to me. Like the accusations that were thrown out there, Olay implying that I'm racist because as a woman, I don't want to be called a birthing person. Like race didn't come up at all until she brought it up. And then she was the only one on that stream who brought race into it and like made it abundantly clear that she's got an issue with white women and just thinks they're all the same and like, whatever. And then after I basically called her out on it, she's like, "Oh, you're attacking me and only me because I'm black." And
True.
Like, no, you're the only one in that
Attacking
group of people who attacked me and accused me of being racist.
Real quick, hold on. I love. Somebody's gonna do a video essay on this at some point, hopefully. I actually just got emailed my that speech I gave to those kids. Maybe I'll play it. I really love that you're getting a very clear cause and effect for why Ana is changing the way that she is. People on the very, very far left won't listen, but if you're more center left, or if you're far left, but at least you're reasonably minded, you can start to get an idea of how toxic the way that extremists engage with political ideology can drive people away from your movements. You can't relentlessly shit on people, call them racist, refuse to acknowledge reality. Like, she's hitting almost every single talking point here in terms of like not even a talking point for her, it's her lived experience. She's hitting in her lived experience every single talking point I've given for why you lose people from your political movements.
Nebraska politics.
I'm good, Dustin. Thank you, though. For instance, like, conservatives feel the way they do because oftentimes they've seen something. Even if it's not representative of reality, people will see things that will make people feel a certain type of way about things. Being really shitty towards people, not giving them any type of grace, not giving them room to grow, not giving them gentle landings, any of these things, these are ways to turn people off from your political movements. People don't want to change your mind or believe you or listen to you if you're going to shit on them for slowly changing your mind. This idea that you're either with us completely or you're completely against us. The idea that if you don't toe the line 100%, now you're a racist, now you're a fascist, now you're going to the Daily Wire, now you're blah, blah, blah. Like, it's the misreporting of facts. She hit that too. That if you misreport something, if you lie about something, or the feeling is you're lying or obscuring something, once you've done that one time, it makes somebody question every single thing that you've said. So, yeah, like all of these things, it's interesting that like all of these things are being hit on basically in her, are being hit. I don't know what that tweet is. I just got linked. Sorry, fuck, I can't reach it. Hold on, I'm gonna get blown up by this stupid shit. Sorry. Okay.
Because I personally want to be called a woman. So, I mean,
I'm not sure that they fully understand the damage that accusation can do. And if they do, that makes it even more.
They understand.
Okay.
They understand.
That makes it even more horrible. I think she published.
Are there only two 175 chests you can open?
Saying the N-word, and it was back when YouTube didn't have this big prohibition on saying the N-word, and you weren't. It's not like you were calling people the N-word. You were using quoting stories. So all of these are taken out of context, which is completely unfair.
Yeah, I mean, look, so it's really funny because that compilation video wasn't made by her. If you guys remember, at some point last year, everyone was going after Rogan for saying the N-word. And so someone on the left had made a compilation video of all the times he had said the N-word on his podcast. And then in response to that, someone on the right made a compilation of all the times like I had said the N-word, right? Or me and Cenk had said so someone on the right made that video. And we had a company meeting, the producers, everyone, we got together, and this is like years and years ago. The last time we actually uttered that word on air was in 2012. But we sat down and we talked about whether we should actually say the word when we're quoting someone that we are condemning as racist, Or should we sanitize it and say N-word instead? And so we had a vote, and we decided at the time that it was better to actually read the quotes verbatim as opposed to sanitizing it. And I knew it would eventually come back to bite me in the ass. And it did. And I'm not going to apologize for it. Because context matters,
N-word enjoyer,
matters,
yes!
And what people like
She must be binging my content. She has to be.
Right? To make
she
it
has
seem
to
as though
be.
intention is totally irrelevant, context is totally irrelevant. If she says someone's racist, then by definition, that person is racist. End of story, period. And I just disagree. I also disagree with racism of all sorts, right? So I find it disgusting when people make generalizations about Black people or migrants or any group. Why would I somehow be okay making generalizations about white women or white people, right?
True!
So I find it gross and divisive. And look, at the center of all of this is I've been doing this shit for like 17 years and things have gotten worse. And I just don't think whatever strategy the left thinks they're engaging in is an effective strategy. I think it's actually caused more harm than good. I think their rhetoric and their discourse is a lot of times ignorant of the facts.
True.
And I think that they go around accusing people of doing things that they themselves engage in.
True.
And I was part of that too. I'm trying to do better moving forward. But a lot of people are going to look at this and think, oh, well, then that means she's a right-winger. Whatever. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care what you label me
Whatever
as,
we want.
But
oh
Just
my ninja.
don't call me a birthing person. A person with a uterus. Yeah, exactly.
I don't blame you at all. So
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what my labels are at this point because I don't fit in anywhere. I feel like
you feel like you're becoming politically homeless, maybe a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think's causing sort of this shift in the left and in media? Or I mean, first of all, I'm assuming you think there is a shift that's happening in the left and in media.
Well, it's funny because, a lot of them LARP is like anti-capitalist, like revolutionaries or whatever.
LARP, okay.
LARP.
Yeah.
Nice.
Imagine she brings up Hassan.
And so it's really
She
funny
would never,
because what they do is they are positioning themselves to attract a very specific niche in audiences, right? So they're going for the purists, the people who like to think of themselves as like far left, communist, socialist, whatever. But like the whole thing is, I mean, you can see it in the various streams. Like they'll talk about things through the lens of we're the most pure, like we're the most sincere in what we're saying, whatever.
The real left.
Like, exactly, we're the real left. So when they do that, what ends up happening is they become more and more extreme in what they are saying, right? In what they claim to believe. And at the heart of that, like what they're actually doing is trying to attract a niche audience for what? To make money. Like I think there's a financial motive behind it. They're competing with one another for a particular niche, a particular ideology that's reflected in these audiences. And I think I'm probably self-sabotaging right now, career-wise. But I don't know. I just the problem is
you
once
see it in their
see certain
streams.
things, you can't unsee
Which
them.
stream?
Someone
And
in the chat tell me what time 2100 is supposed to be in normal human time.
Lie. I can't do it with a straight face. It's just not who I am.
what do you mean? Are you talking self-sabotaging by talking to us or talking about these things in general? Because I like it's an interesting dynamic that we have here on the internet, because I do agree with you, and we've talked about this on the show many times. Like the incendiary voices in the political space are the ones that get attention, blow their channels up, get views.
Does anybody else think that Ana Kasparian is an uppity, stupid bitch? What a wild thing for a left-leaning person to say. So stupid. Head Ana Kasparian is going on right-wing shithole shows and trying to call out the leftist mafia over their support for trans rights? Who the does this uppity, stupid bitch think she is? Holy shit! What the fuck? Bro!
Become rich, basically.
Yeah.
Conflict entrepreneurs is what I always call them. And we're in a kind of a, we are in the same kind of position that you've kind of come.
Can you clarify your use of words that replace the N-word? It sounded like you gave some WoW player a hard time for using the words naga. I don't give a fuck. I don't care that much about racial slurs. Generally what I focus on is people being racist. If you're like calling people racial slurs, I think it's bad. I super don't care. There's so many other things I'd rather talk about, and it's like the most boring thing is like playing 20 questions, like figuring out if somebody's racist because of a word they use it on. It's pretty easy. In my opinion, it's pretty easy to tell if somebody's racist or not based on what they're saying. If you gotta like hunt through like whether or not they use like the soft A or some shit, I just think it's cringe. I've never cared about that. I understand other people care a lot about that, but I've never cared about that. Destiny, see, this is what I'm talking about. The disgusting lies spread by the left is more prevalent than the right. Bro, you literally have a death cult over there that thought the vaccine was going to turn you into magnets, okay? Shut the fuck up. Bro, you have no place to talk. That Andrea person is live watching this podcast episode right now. Get her into a call. Who is the Andrea person? Unhinged, puritanical leftist unloads rage on Ana Kasparian's right-wing turn. This type of person would never, ever, I can already tell they would never talk to me. But if they want to, I'd do it.
Like, we want to give an honest, a fair assessment of both sides of the argument and try to kind of come to some sort of truth. And one of the paths that I think we've kind of fell into is just, I think us, Sitch and I, arguing points makes it interesting enough that we can kind of build an audience. And watching the videos of you last week, it kind of feels like that's kind of the direction you're going. It seems like Cenk is saying over the top things, and you're reeling him in, which is, I got to tell you, when I'm watching your show, I'm going, oh, look, Ana is just like Sitch.
Tipping in America is crazy. I went to a Starbucks recently and I ordered a croissant. And then the barista spun the machine around. It said, do you want to tip? And then I asked her, I said, do people normally tip here at Starbucks? And she said to me, yeah, people tip if they want to be nice.
If they want to be nice?
And then she said it with a voice where it was sort of an attitude. And then I said, okay, well, if I tip, do I get a blowjob?
You said that?
And for how long? Long story short, she actually called the cops. As they arrested me, they pushed me away. I remember thinking that I would have actually tipped her if she wasn't such a bitch. You know, and that's actually Alpha King rule number 14. You can attract way more bees with honey than a beehive.
I can't tell if this is real or not. I just can't tell.
Cenk have any fun?
Are you saying you're the one saying over the top things?
Look, constantly. And Sitch is like no, Adam, that we don't know that yet. So, but I think our audience understands that there's a little bit of a dynamic going there. That's fun, but at the same time, they are getting the information. So, unfortunately for my reputation, it's like, don't listen to Adam. He's always...
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, again, credit to Cenk, because he's not like one of these like people who get super offended if you correct him right there on the spot. It's just, I kind of went along with some of the more hyperbolic commentary, mostly because I was reading the same sources and I had the same, I think he's doing better and better. Like we have a lot of conversations about a lot of these issues privately, and I'll just be like, look.
Sitch does the same thing to me.
Yeah. And I'll just be like, look. I mean, before he was gonna go, he asked me if I thought it was a good idea that he was gonna go debate Destiny, and I said no. And it's mostly because
I might just be thinking too highly of myself now, but it's kind of funny. When this clip was originally linked to me, it seemed like Ana was like shit-talking me. She was like, don't debate Destiny, it's a waste of your time. But now when I look back on this whole interview, it almost seems like she's like ribbing Cenk, because she's like, you're way wrong on this. But I could be reading that wrong, but that's kind of what it feels like now. It's like, don't debate him because you're way off on the Rittenhouse stuff. That's what it seems like, yeah.
I see a lot of clickbaity stuff going on in that realm too, like with some of the debate stuff that takes place. But also I asked him, like, what are you guys going to debate? So first he said, oh, we're going to talk about like the Democratic Party and our disagreements about it. I was fine with that. But then he mentioned, he's like, and then we're going to talk about Rittenhouse. And you probably,
so he knew Rittenhouse was going to come up.
Yeah. I think they agreed on the topics ahead of time.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And you know, we had to look. Cenk is his own man. The best I can do is share my perspective. And I just told him, I was like, but he was acting in self-defense. He was like, but look, Cenk just has a different perspective. It is what it is. Like, I'm not here to talk shit about Cenk. You know, like we and again, I want to give him credit because we can have the conversation on air, this exact conversation. And he's going to say the exact same thing. I'm going to say my piece. And it's not going to lead to like an uncomfortable relationship with him. It's not going to lead to retaliation. And I really commend him for having an open mind. But to him, he just disagrees about it being self-defense. He thinks like he didn't need to like shoot the gun. He didn't need to kill people. I hear you. I wish it didn't end that way. But if I were in his shoes, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. I probably would have prayed and sprayed. So, I mean, Rittenhouse did the right thing. Like, it's a good thing he was in control of the weapon instead of me. So,
yeah.
It's funny that, like, this gets thrown around a lot. Like, people accuse you of grifting or other people of grifting when they start changing their beliefs, even though it's like you're changing your beliefs in a way that would like be more likely to hurt your career as opposed to help it.
I know.
Yeah, it's like insane because you know what so many people on the internet want is they just want you to choose one side very comfortably and to like fit into it and to just say like these are the hyperbolic talking points. And then if you're like, well, let's add some nuance here, which pisses off your audience more often than not, you're like, well, you're a grifter. Like, well, who am I grifting to exactly?
So I'm going to stick up for my audience a little bit because to their credit, I think the majority of people in the audience are open-minded and are open to new information. I think that there is a small but very loud minority in our audience and on the left in general that really give the left a bad name. I think they're overrepresented on Twitter and they're children. They act like children. I think some of them literally are like minors and they see everything. Jesus. And look, if they're young, I don't blame them. I think when you are young, it's a little more difficult to grasp nuance and how complicated and complex a lot of these issues are. You know, one of the things that Jesse Singles says all the time that I love, and he says it repeatedly, is it's complicated because it is. Like all of these issues are way more complicated than the way they're being portrayed in partisan media. And so what I want to do is actually understand those complexities. But here's the other thing. Understand the other side in good faith, okay? Because I think that there are some stereotypes that the left has kind of bought into about what the arguments are on the other side. And
true.
You know,
also, wait.
Hello?
Wow, hello.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right.
Well, what's up? I saw you were attacking my queen of politics, Ana Kasparian, on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm tagging the shit out of her.
Why so mean?
Why so mean? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Let me turn your volume up. I don't know. I like being mean sometimes. It's kind of fun.
Is there like a rational basis behind the meanness, or do you think she's incorrect in anything she said, or?
Yeah, I did a whole like kind of review of the whole podcast. I'm assuming you just saw the tweet, but I did a whole video responding to all kinds of the stuff point by point.
I think I've made it. I'm only 40 minutes through right now, but what do you think? I guess what are some of the things that you heard her say that you believe were incorrect? I'm curious.
Well, first of all, I think it is the context around her going on that show is a little weird, and I think she's like kind of lying about it, and she's kind of making this big deal about it. You know, like she claims over time that like the leftist mafia are her friends or whatever, but like she's afraid to go on their show, but she'll like name search herself and look for people talking about her to go on a small show no one's ever heard of to like have people tell her how great she is. I don't know, it just seems like a beta energy kind of move, you know?
Do you think that there might be an element of truth to the idea that it's easier sometimes to talk to people that are a little politically different than you because they're not like as keen to demonize you or judge you as other people?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to anybody. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
but I'm not asking you. I just said in general. Don't you think there's a degree of truth to the idea that, like, if I talk to people that are politically different than me, I don't really care how they insult me, right? Like, if I talk to a conservative, he's like, you want to trans the kids or whatever. Like, I don't care. I don't care if he says that. But if I talk to a leftist and they're like, you're racist, well, that actually does kind of annoy me, right? Because they're closer politically, so the insults like make more sense, or they like strike you closer, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Well, so I don't think it's fair to say that she's being disingenuous. I think that that's actually completely understandable. I think it's pretty obvious why you would want to talk to people that are a little bit more politically different.
You see, that's the thing is, I don't think that Ana is smart enough to like have that kind of analysis that you have.
Yeah, she doesn't need to be intelligent to have that analysis. That's an intuitive thing you feel. What I gave is the intellectualized version of it. But like just internally, you feel that way, that like when you're talking to people that are politically similar, that infighting is so much more vicious than people that are politically dissimilar. Like,
I kind of like it, but that's just me.
Yeah, that is just you. Though. We're not talking about you, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I think most people, like, when the other side attacks them, if anything, it kind of feels good, right? Like, if a conservative would say, like, you want everybody to be gay or whatever, like, it's kind of funny. I think it's funny. But when but when somebody on your side is saying, I think you're transphobic, I think you're a bigot or whatever, it's like, well, hold on. I'm not going to celebrate those attacks. It feels a lot different, you know?
Yeah, but back to the podcast, she said in, like, the first 5 minutes that, like, she, like, feels really malleable, you know? And she's, like, looking for more information, but like also shutting out everyone she's ever talked to and going exclusively on right-wing shows. Like, I don't know, man. It just
I never heard her say that. What I heard her say was that
she said it at the start.
Well, I think what she said was that in a lot of like left-leaning spaces, it seems to be the case that a lot of the information that's given is either omitting stuff that's pretty important or it's just outright factually incorrect.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's a truthful claim.
So if that's
the case,
I
think that's all media, right? I don't think going to right-wing news outlets or liberal mainstream, that's just how the world news works.
Sure, but I don't think she ever said, and I'm not far enough in, so maybe she did say this and I haven't gotten there yet, but I didn't hear her say like, oh, well, now I explicitly wholly trust Fox News, or now I only
she didn't say that, but she said, and I quote, I feel malleable and I'm looking for more sources.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with either of those statements, right?
I think there is something wrong with someone who is the co-host on their words, the home of progressives, going on some like backwoods right-wing show saying I'm malleable, I'm so malleable, mold my clay daddy is just like a weird thing to say.
I don't think she said I'm malleable, mold my clay. I think what she's saying is right.
It's just like, that's my interpretation.
Well, sure, but an interpretation usually needs supporting arguments, right? It sounds like what she's saying is that I feel a little politically homeless. That's what it sounds like she's saying, which I think is a reasonable read based on.
I agree.
Sure. So unless you want her to lie about how she feels, I don't see anything wrong with any of the statements she's given so far yet.
Well, you said you haven't even finished the video yet, but
sure.
I'm down to go point by point.
Yeah, you can. Of every point you brought up so far, I've completely disagreed, and I think I've supported my arguments pretty well. But if there's another point that you want to bring out,
you can disagree. It's just there's no facts here. It's just it's vibes.
All of these statements so far have been factual. I asked you if she had said explicitly like I'm only going to right-wing podcasts or I'm only going to listen to she hasn't said that. That's not true.
Yeah, obviously that I'm being hyperbolic, but we're talking about you're talking about.
Well, you're not. To be clear, you're not being hyperbolic. You're inventing statements and ascribing them.
No, hyperbolic is a more accurate word. But anyway,
okay.
You're saying, it's just vibes. She's going on a right-wing show. We're all talking about vibes here,
We're not. But okay.
Yeah, I just think that she is doing a series of behaviors that I personally view as strange. And I think no one in the left is calling her out. Everyone in the left are, in my opinion, acting afraid to call out the Young Turks because everyone in the left-wing media space, worships them or some shit. And so I'm just providing a counterbalance to that. I say, f that shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't care who you are. I think what you're saying is dumb, and I'm going to say so. So that's pretty much what I'm doing.
Have you pointed out anything? So what are some things you think she said that was dumb, I guess?
Well, like I said, I think going on a right-wing show and telling them how malleable you are, I think that's dumb. I mean, just like
so
on
even if
optics,
that's true, you think that. So now we're moving away from she's like lying or saying incorrect things to where you just think the optics.
I
are
never really said that she's lying per se, but
Okay.
I think she's telling the truth. I think she's truthfully very dumb.
Okay. It sounded in the beginning like you were implying she was being a bit disingenuous, but I might have misinterpreted that.
I mean, disingenuous and lying are different, right? You know, it's like the lying, like saying wrong information versus lying from omission. You know, like they're slightly different.
Disingenuous implies the intentionality of not being genuine, which is what people say synonymous with lying, but yeah.
Sure, but like I'm also going to say I'm making an argument that I think she is not smart enough for that to be in the conscious levels of thought. I think she's riding on subconscious vibes.
Okay. I mean, you can say that, but I'm curious if there's like do we have a reason to believe that she's like stupid, I guess? She's been in media for a long time. She's commented.
I mean, I think a lot of people in media, like Chris Matthews is stupid. Sure. Like
I'm asking particularly for Ana. Do we feel like she said something or done something that's explicitly like stupid?
Well, I don't know about we. I'm just saying my opinion.
Have
right?
you? But generally the opinion is going to be rooted in that I saw her say dumb things. So like I think, for instance, a person is stupid because I've seen them say this, this, and this. So like, has she said things that are like incorrect or wrong or stupid or?
Yeah, I think so.
Did she say any of those things in this interview, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think what she said about Kyle Rittenhouse is pretty stupid. I think what she said.
What do you think she said about like
Jesse Stingal is pretty stupid.
Sure,
I don't know. She's just saying a lot of stupid shit, in my opinion.
Sure. For the Rittenhouse stuff, what do you think she said that was stupid? Did she get anything factually incorrect?
I think what she's doing is she correctly feels that the story was manipulated, and she's providing an overcorrection and an oversimplification of the whole thing. She also said that it was this is one thing that right-wingers do, is they love jumping on like random tangentially related facts, and then same thing the liberal media does, ignoring all the surrounding context, right? Like, I think discussing whether or not Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines, I think that doesn't matter. That's not really related. Like, it's legally, right? If we're talking about legally, yeah, he got away with it. Legally, everything he did was fine. But I don't really care about the legal argument. I'm more concerned with the moral implications of people going to protests with guns and, defending property rights. And I just think that kind of thing is getting lost in this whole legalese kind of bullshit,
Sure. There's a couple things. So one is the reason why the crossing state lines was brought up so much was because people initially were given the impression that he drove really far away. It wasn't necessarily,
like he lived like they were basically on the state line. He's just on the, it's a magical line in the sand, it's like a 30-minute drive, if you're going to your mom's house.
Yeah, that was one part. And then the second part was nobody died or killed anybody protecting property that night, I don't believe. I'm pretty sure it was a self-defense incident, so I don't know how that's...
Yeah, but that's a legal argument. I don't really care about the legal argument. Like, he went there to defend property, and he killed people to defend property, right?
Well,
I'm not having a legal discussion.
Sure, he might have went there to defend property. We're not talking in law right now. He might have went there to defend property. That's possible. But the people they ultimately killed had nothing to do with the defense of property, right?
I disagree.
Whose property did he kill? When did he kill somebody defending property?
Well, he went there with a gun to patrol with, in his words, to defend property. That's why he went there. And in that stated goal, right, whatever happened, he ended up killing people. He was there to defend property. Like, if the argument is he just like left his post of defending property to go like roam the streets with a gun looking for trouble, I'm down to pursue that path.
Sure, you can, but so there's literally no justification for that. If you think that, there's no reason to believe that's true. He might have gone that he was roaming the streets looking for trouble.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that, but yeah.
Sure. So if somebody goes to an area, let's say somebody goes to a bar and they're like, I want to start a fight with an Asian person because I'm racist. And while they're at the bar, a white person like tries to rape them and they end up like killing that white person as a result of that. Would you say that like that self-defense was wrong because they went there originally looking for trouble?
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, so people bring up the defense of property, but Rittenhouse didn't kill anybody defending property. It was just self-defense. People were trying to attack him, right?
Yeah, I think your hypothetical is a good hypothetical, but like I also don't necessarily think it applies here, right? Because protests are inherently political. People go to protests for all kind of reasons. It's kind of different than someone who's just like a skeevy fuck going out there to rape some bitch. You know, like that's a weird thing. That's kind of like, you know. And then we also have to discuss that I think that an important part of the Kyle Rittenhouse thing is that he got groomed into thinking that going to a protest with a gun is an acceptable thing to do. You know, where's the parents? But either way, we're getting off track here. I think we're talking about Ana Kasparian, right? So,
but no. Well, this is. I think this is the whole. I think this is the whole point. I don't think this is off track at all. I think this is exactly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. What's being discussed is that the way that these stories get represented or misrepresented are just so far away from the reality of it that what happens is, and I think this has happened to a lot of people, and it's just one person in a long chain of people it's happening to, is that when you actually sit down and you look at the facts of a case, or you look at the fact of the matter, you find out that progressives have been basically lying completely about it the entire time. And then that...
Well, I don't know about progressives, but I think the right's been lying about it. I think everybody lies about everything, just to be clear. That's what I think. And that's why I'm less concerned with, like, you know, the legal arguments. I think the law is a bullshit system, so I'm just more concerned with the moral argumentation and implications.
Okay, I guess so. Morally, do you think people have a right to defend their property?
Depends on how we defend, right? Like,
do you think people have a right to take a rifle and shoot people that are trying to threaten or destroy their property?
No, I don't think that they have a right to, per se. No, does that mean that there's no circumstance where that's acceptable? No.
Well, what would be a circumstance where it's acceptable?
You know, if someone has like a, you know, like, you know, let's say you got a pickup truck and, you know, a bunch of guys are coming in, they got AKs, they're about to f your shit up. Let's say they got a flag that says, we're gonna f your shit up. Then yeah, maybe bring out the rifle. But oftentimes, you know, I think people bring guns, or guns are there, and it's like, guns aren't really a problem solver in a lot of instances. They just, you know, someone could be getting into a fist fight and then the problem solved. But when guns are involved, now that guy is dead, right? So I don't necessarily think guns are always something you should have for self-defense. It depends on the purpose, right? And if at a protest, I don't think you should bring guns to a protest.
Sure. There were multiple protesters there that brought guns, at least 2 of which were involved with Rittenhouse, 2 of the other protesters there. So if they have guns, and if somebody wants to defend their property, doesn't it kind of make sense that you would probably bring a gun too?
I mean, not really. Because if you want to, like, I mean, if you want to, like, again, we're talking about defend your property versus defending property.
Well, right now,
like,
I'm just asking if you can defend your property. If you agree with me there, then we move on to the, can you ask people for help to defend property? I would think that it's a logical extension of the first point, but I'm just saying if you think there's ever a point during the LA riots, the rooftop Koreans, where they had the right to defend their businesses, or, you know, for the Tulsa race riots, if black people would have wanted to defend their property violently against racist white people, would they have had the right to do that, or would you compel them to let their businesses burn? I'm just curious what your position is on it, because I notice that people always take this hardline stance of like, no, you can never defend your property, and it's like, for a lot of people, these businesses are their livelihoods. They've spent their whole lives, sometimes multiple generations, building them. It seems weird to compel them to sacrifice those businesses to incoming protesters or rioters.
I think self-defense should be something that is not a tit for tat and escalatory. I'm sorry, I'm high. Like, I don't think if someone threatens you with a gun, okay, then guns are involved, right? But like,
well, I'm saying no guns involved. Let's say somebody's walking up to your business with a match and a can of kerosene or whatever, and they're like, I'm going to burn your business down. You can leave. I'm not going to hurt you. You guys can leave out the back, but I will burn your store down. Is a person compelled to watch their business burn, or do they have a right to say, like, well, no, if you do this, I am going to shoot and kill you?
I think killing someone to defend a business is morally wrong. Yeah.
So then you would say that in the case of the LA riots, in the case of the Tulsa race riots,
if the arsonist is saying, hey, bro, get out of here, I'm about to burn your stuff down, and they're giving you that opportunity, I don't think killing them, in my opinion, I don't think killing them is acceptable.
Sure. So you would compel people to watch their businesses burn. You would say, sorry, rioters showed up with a match. You have to just watch your business burn. You're not allowed to do anything about it.
Would I compel them? I don't believe in compelling anybody to do anything. I'm just telling you my opinion.
Well, no, hold on. Wait. No one cares about what is like just a personal opinion. We're asking what you think the moral standard should be, right? That's the important thing, not like what would you do personally. So I'm asking, when I say compel, I mean like saying like you ought not do something. We're not even in the area of law yet. I'm just curious, would you tell somebody like, listen, if you want to be a moral person, you have to let your business burn. You cannot protect your business. You see the guy coming with a match, the can of kerosene.
Yeah, if we're talking about being a moral person, yeah. But then also, I would say that not every decision anyone and everyone ever makes is necessarily moral, or perfect morality should be necessarily something to strive for. So is the moral decision to watch your business burn and let the guy get away with it and maybe sue them later or something? Sure, is that the moral decision? But not everyone's always going to make the moral decision.
And to be clear, sue them later. We're not getting money out of these people, right? They're protesters. They're not. You're probably not going to get 100,000, 500,000. Yeah. Okay. So then, I'm not perfectly satisfied, but I'll let that stand. Okay. So we'll say it's immoral, but it's understandable. Would you say that Rittenhouse's behavior was at the very least then understandable, or would you say it's just fully, completely not even?
It can be understandable and immoral, right?
Yeah, I agreed. I granted you that, even though I disagree, but I'll grant you that. But would you say at the very least it's understandable? I could understand why he would want to protect the community he's been involved in.
I can understand why someone in that environment, raised in that environment, would feel that way, yes.
Well, this would be most environments in the United States, right? Like, I think most people feel like they would want to defend... They wouldn't want their business just to be burned down by rioters, right? That's like probably one of the worst things you could compel a person to suffer, right?
Yes, yeah. I don't know about the worst thing. I mean,
I didn't say the worst thing. I said one of the worst things. I think if your family or if you've spent decades building a business and somebody's like, sorry, people are going to come burn it down and there's nothing you can do about it. I think we can at least understand why people would be like, well, I don't think I want to just sit there and have some guy come and...
Yeah, well, we could also ask, like, why do people want to burn my business down? And then go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, but at the point of you protecting your business, I think that question is probably beyond you. I don't think the individual business owners can address those grievances, right?
Sure.
If you want to get into why the business went out, that would be an interesting conversation too, because that had to do about misreporting around the Jacob Blake shooting, which was another instance of left-leaning media propagating falsehoods and lies. But
I disagree with that. I don't think the Jacob Blake shooting had much. Like, that was the localized, right, incident, but that was also still at the tail end of the George Floyd, like, summer uprising. So
wait, when do you think the Kenosha riots started?
Wasn't it like August?
No. It was right after the Jacob Blake shooting. How far was the Rittenhouse shootings from the Jacob Blake shooting?
Yeah, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to do that whole thing with the dates or whatever. I'm just saying there's the end. Like, I'm saying that Jacob Blake was the inciting incident, but that wasn't the sole.
Might not have been the sole, but it was the lies about that were the reason why.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. The lies are irrelevant. Like,
without Jacob Blake being misreported, the Kenosha riots wouldn't have happened.
I don't agree. But
see, you have no evidence.
The energy to protest is already in the air. Everyone in the country is doing it, right?
No. And so, there were no riots in Kenosha before.
I'm not talking about Kenosha.
I am, because that's where Rittenhouse happened. We're not talking about the country.
I'm talking about people in Kenosha live in the United States. Kenosha is a city or a town in the United States. In the United States at the time, there were several other cities and towns that were doing similar things because of similar incidents. Now, we can talk about the lies of Jacob Blake's reporting, but I don't think that matters. I think that the only thing that mattered in that instance to cause the protest was a black person was shot by the cops. Any other aspect to the reporting was irrelevant to the outcome, because during that summer, people were already angry and they were looking for a reason to do something. And so whatever specific minutia of the reporting, I think, is irrelevant to that.
Okay, I mean, like, the reason why people are protesting aren't because black people are being shot by cops. They feel like it's because black people are being shot by cops for no reason, without justification. That's the issue.
I think a cop shooting anybody is pretty much without justification.
Do you think the cops were okay to shoot Jacob Blake?
No.
So when Jacob Blake, a convicted sex offender, was about to drive off with 2 or 3 children with a weapon in the car, you don't think the cops were in the right to try to stop him with lethal force? You think they should have let him drive off?
I mean, that's a false dichotomy, right? They don't have a car, they can't chase him, they can't.
So you think it would have been better to do? You think it would have been better to do a high-speed chase with 3 children in the back seat? Would Jacob blame?
Does it have to be a high-speed chase? Like,
Are they going to
you
drive
think the only
casual?
option is to shoot someone with intent to kill? And
Well, that wasn't the only option. They tried to wrestle him to the ground. They tried to tase him. Neither of those two things worked. And then it got to the point where he was getting in the car to drive away with.
Yeah, that sounds like a skill issue on behalf of the cops. Like, oh, because you suck at doing your job, now that means you can shoot someone? Yeah, I don't know about that.
So would you be in favor of massively increasing funding to the police force so they can all be trained in like jujitsu and all other types of martial arts if they can't bring down like a...
I mean, that's a good one. I gotta admit, that's a good one, but no.
Okay, so what is your solution then in that situation? Community policing? Because the woman, the mother, was outside crying.
My solution is
like,
to have a police force made up of competent people. Yeah.
Okay, so massive increase in
That doesn't
funding.
require more funding, though.
How does that not require more funding?
Because get rid of all the losers and bring in people that actually know what the they're doing and actually care to do it properly. You don't need more funding. I mean,
what do you think you need to
have
hire better workers? What do you usually get better workers with?
With the money that you save from firing all the losers.
If you're getting people that are more qualified than your last workers, you're usually paying them... it starts with an M.
Mm-hmm.
More, right? You're not going to hire a better workforce with the same money. That's not how work usually works.
Do you know how, like, I mean, if we're going to pretend as if, like, having a higher skill threshold actually makes you get more money in the workplace and that's, like, a universal thing, I don't agree. But
I mean,
I feel like
by definition,
hold
that's
the
true.
phone. That's the first half of my comment. Just hold the phone for a moment, buddy. I think that people should have a moral, like, why should you be a cop for money? I think if you want to be somebody who protects people, to be a hero, you shouldn't be doing it for money. You should be doing it because you want to.
Don't people need to be able to like pay their bills and stuff?
Yeah.
So how do we get like people that are gonna do jobs without paying them money for it?
Are you saying that cops can't pay their bills now?
If they're not getting paid for being cops, probably not. That's part of why
I didn't say not to pay them. We're talking about increasing funding. We don't need to increase anything. We can keep the same pool of resources here.
Well, if there's a higher threshold for physical activity or competency, my guess is going to be those people probably do other jobs that aren't related to joining the police force. But if you want to get those people that are doing the other jobs...
If people would join the police force for the money, I don't want those people being in the police force. So yeah, that's the intended outcome.
Okay, well, I don't know where your new police force is going to come from, I guess, but
If you think that we live in a society where the only people that would be willing to protect others would only do it so that they can get a shitload of money, then that says a lot about what you think about society. I don't believe that. I think people would want to do things that are right, just, and moral because they want to.
do you have an example of any special police force or firefighters that all do it for no money?
Have you ever heard of volunteer firefighting?
I'm sorry. You know that a volunteer firefighter, that doesn't mean they don't get paid. Volunteer means that they're just not like forced or drafted. They still get paid money.
Absolutely.
Okay, so...
Am I saying that we're not paying cops? Like, you keep pretending as if I said that, but
well, you're
feel free to
saying that
rewind
you don't
and
want these
that.
people if they're only doing it for money or whatever, but like people that work these jobs are doing it because they get paid money. If they weren't getting paid money...
Okay, so step one, you tried to catch me in a trap that I understood, and you're trying to catch me in an increasing police funding trap. I, extremely skillfully, by the way, avoided that because I said we don't need to spend more money on police. And now you keep trying to circularly catch me in this spending more money on police by pretending as if I'm saying they should be doing it for free. I didn't say that. I never said that they should do it for free. I said we can have the same amount of resources, and it can be the people that actually give a fuck being the ones that do it, i.e. not for the money. So when you bring up that volunteer firefighters get paid, exactly. So that's not a gotcha. You didn't get me. You said what I said, except you thought that it came from you.
Okay, the only thing that I didn't understand was it sounds like you're looking for a more competent police force, but you're not willing to increase the compensation. Generally...
That's correct.
Yeah, generally when we talk about...
I don't care about generally.
Okay, then it's I don't know what to say. If you want more competent workers, you have to pay them more.
If you believe that, then that's fine. We agree to disagree.
Do you think in general people get paid more money if they're more competent, or do you think that's not true?
I think police is not like other industries. Police should be a job that people don't necessarily want to do, but they're doing it on behalf of their community and the people that they love.
Okay.
And when you give these people a lot of money, it incentivizes certain kinds of people that aren't going into the police force for those reasons, to go there because maybe they'll get paid or maybe they'll have a cool badge and that has other sorts of abilities. I want to incentivize morally righteous people to become police. And that's not going to happen in this current society. By the way, I mean, I just want to point out, we were started talking about this Adam and Sitch, so I keep wanting to say Stitch, but it's not that. And now we're talking about police. I mean, I'm fine to go down the rabbit holes. I'm just, making us aware of it.
I'm very aware of where we're at. Like, in order to address ideas of, like, is there good or bad information, you typically kind of have to go a little bit more than just, like, what the Twitter
I'm not
headlines are.
complaining. I'm making sure that we're both consenting. That's all. I've never watched your show. I don't know what your style is. I'm just making sure.
Okay. I guess so. To back up, I mean, it seems like this is basically what Ana talks about. Is we just have factual disagreements on everything, right? You think that the Jacob Blake situation,
there's a factual disagreement.
Well, there is, because we factually disagree on whether the reporting would have impacted how people responded in Kenosha.
That's not a factual disagreement. We disagree. I say that the reporting of that case is not relevant to the outcome. That's not a factual disagreement. We don't disagree on facts. We disagree on our opinion on what caused the outcome. That's not a fact.
Okay, I guess we disagree on our opinion on how the police should have acted as well.
Yeah. It's not a factual disagreement. There's no facts that have been disputed here, so don't,
Okay,
don't
it's hard
misrepresent
to,
me.
yeah, my bad, okay. We have opinion disagreements on everything, although I'm not entirely sure what your opinions are on any of these things. I guess we disagree on the fact of the matter of whether or not the protests were in response to the Jacob Blake thing, because you seem to think
it's a part of that, right? But it's an you can't have the Kenosha Jacob Blake without George Floyd, without everything that happened over that summer, without like the multiple shootings that happened in like Texas and all. Like, this is all, it all builds, like, time flows in one direction, right? It all builds on each other, right?
If there was no Jacob Blake, do you think that the Kenosha riots would have still happened?
No. In the same way, I mean, it's possible that, like, there would have been demonstrations there, things could have gotten violent, possibly, but it wouldn't have been the same thing, It's pretty obvious to say if history was different, the outcome would be different, right? So yes, if historical event X was different, historical outcome X or Y would also be different. Yes, I agree.
Okay. I think that in the broadest sense, that would be that in the broadest sense, that would probably be Ana's disagreement, and that was my disagreement with a lot of the left-leaning media, is that the Jacob Blake stuff was covered in a very poor way, which led to a lot of people feeling a certain type of way about the outcomes of that shooting, which led to people rioting. And then Rittenhouse happened. That was reported poorly by a lot of people, which led to her having different opinions about it. That this collection of kind of like misreporting or skewing things left her feeling very confused when she went to verify or fact check afterwards. She felt like she'd been misled, which I think is probably a fair thing for her to feel.
I think that that's fair to feel that way. Yeah. So
if you have that feeling that the side that you've been politically allegiant to for a long time is engaging in a lot of lies or misinformation at best, lies at worst, and you've been purportedly being like on the side of what is true and what is factual, it's just not very surprising to me that somebody would be like, yeah, I feel a little bit politically homeless now, a little bit politically malleable.
That's not surprising. I'm not saying that that's the surprising part. The surprising part is that she's like flipping opinions on major issues.
What has she flipped opinions on? Or sorry, let me finish your saying, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think I feel politically homeless. I personally feel like the left in America sucks dick. Like, a bunch of these people are LARPers, liars, and losers. That's my opinion on the left, right? But that doesn't mean I'm gonna go like, let's see what the right has to say. Like, because I think the right is also a bunch of liars, losers, and grifters,
Has she flipped any of her opinions to the right?
Yeah, well, she went from, you can look this up, right? I don't have the clip on me, but she made an argument, about like certain trans language like a year ago. And then now she's making the exact opposite argument. So that's an example of a flip. Like a year ago,
she was talking that she's like sided with conservatives on, or is this something that a left-leaning person could have a principled
she's siding with conservatives in the sense of like, she's promoting certain conservative writers that are talking about the dangers of HRT and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, she is kind of promoting more right-wing thinkers in this journey of hers that she's going on, and I think that it's dumb. That's why you brought me on your show, because I think she's dumb.